Okay, I would like to call the
Ron just got a-
Wood Park O&M
Oh,
Committee
geez,
meeting
sorry,
to order.
Fred.
Did I wake you up? Okay. I guess we don't have a formal written agenda today, but there's a number of things that the mayor would like to brief us on, and some actions that I think he would recommend that we take, based on a meeting with promoters of the events at the festival space.
Well, I just thought it would do well right after the season was over and everything was fresh in our minds. So we had a meeting, which I've given you the excerpts of, held on August 18th at the Village Hall. And every single individual that utilized the space this year attended that meeting. The two that did not, I met with them separately. And we had a roundtable discussion of what worked, what didn't work, and what might we be able to do to help these folks come back next year. As you know, by reading the media, I'm sure you're aware that we have had more festivals there that did not make it financially than we had. The secret seems to be off-season works. July and August so far has not worked. The most promising one, Arlo Guthrie, as you know, drew a little around 600 in attendance at $50 a piece, and they needed to draw close to 1,000 to break even. So even with a name there in July and August, there were some problems. The biggest discussion centered around the stage, and we had Alon planning there, and Charlie Hoffman, who is the architect that our committee has hired to design the stage, and they went into great detail as to what they would like to see, what they didn't want, didn't need, and so Alon and Mr. Hoffman, the architect, has that information, and will be bringing it to this committee in a conceptual manner within the next month or two. Our plan there is to be ready to apply for grant funding next spring, and another round of funding, hopefully be under construction and have a stage sometime in 2017, and that's what we discussed at the meeting. The second part of the discussion centered around what all of them perceive to be the greatest problem, and that's parking. Knowing from personal experience, again, on the off-season, parking is not that big of a problem. You have parking for over 1,000 cars within a 5-minute walk. But this summer, thankfully, and maybe not so thankfully, by the time these folks opened their gates, myself included, all the parking lots available were full to capacity. Actually, the State Beach was the first time they had to close their lot in several years. They couldn't park any cars during the weekend of our Save Festival. Steamboat Company lot was full by 11 o'clock in the morning, and there was no place for anyone to park. So that's something that we have to look at very carefully and see if somehow down the road there isn't some solution for parking. Even the lot across the street, which was formerly the off-track betting lot, John Carr purchased it. He was kind enough to let all the events use it. He even created a sign that said free event parking, and his lots were filled, but people said, we're going to the event across the street. They lied. They were going to the beach, or they were going on the steamboats, or they were going somewhere else. He had no control over that. The people that did come to the festivals remarked to the promoters and myself, we almost got killed crossing Route 9, which is 4.5 lanes of traffic, to get to your festival. So, while that would appear to be a great solution, 200 spots right across the street, it doesn't work having the people walk across Route 9. So, with that in mind, we need to consider a stage. The other large things, the highway signs are being designed, the LED signs, they'll be up next year. People will be more aware of the space. That was a big problem. And the other big need that they cited was a box office. If you think about it, every big space needs a box office. Dave and I have been talking with Jeff, and something as simple as one of those sheds that looks fairly decent, where people can come in advance. I checked with the general manager of the Big Apple Circus. They actually sold 75% of their tickets in advance of when their performances were at their box office, which you might remember was on Westbrook Road. People have got plans for the day, but they want to make sure they can go tomorrow. They need a place to walk up to purchase tickets, or to call and get a live person to answer and get tickets in advance. And every one of the promoters said we need some type of a box office on site, not only to use when people are coming to the event, so we don't have to use folding chairs and tables and tents, but something that can be staffed in advance of our event so that people can walk up and purchase tickets to all of the events that are going to take place in the coming months at the festival space. So once the park is completed, we've talked about putting a staffer there for maintenance and so forth. I'd like to bring that up on the floor over the winter, and perhaps we can come up with something useful that's not going to cost a lot of money, perhaps with work done by our own forces, to create some type of a small box office somewhere near the main entrance to the festival space. The major thing that we need to discuss today is fees. There are 4 events that have called and want to utilize the space next year. I have not handed out any applications. Just about 3 weeks ago, county attorney sent me new language, and we've got another new contract, so it was just as well we didn't. But we can't hand out new contracts until we have fees set for next year. And based on the fact that the county is going to have a new parking lot in front of the festival space, that parking lot now is full before the promoter opens up his gate, with people going to the State Beach, the Dog Beach, and the boats. If we were to charge $1,500, or we talked at the last meeting, $2,500 next year, and $1,500 for the parking lot, we are not going to get any people to use it. We have to come up with some creative way that we can put the parking lot under control of the user of the festival space, and make it somewhat reasonable. In other words, make it a package so that I could control that parking lot like Americade did. Americade rented the parking lot. They were successful. They're coming back next year. As you know, the parking lot is being used for a vendor's show this week as well. But it has to be, for some of these events in July and August, the parking lot has to be made available to the promoters, and we have to come up with a package price. In other words, you can rent the space for this price, but you really should take control of that parking lot, and it's going to cost you this amount. They can build a parking fee into their into their,
How many cars can you park in there?
well,
I think once we expand, gonna be up around 90 cars.
It isn't gonna make or break it, which is unfortunately, in other words, you're never gonna get enough parking to fill the space, which holds 3,100 people, but at least it'll be out of desperation, parked cars during my festival inside the gate, and made more parking cars than I did with people coming to the event. I had 35 people attend the Glens Falls Symphony concert. There was 54 people in the symphony, because there was nowhere to park. They just would not come up on a Saturday night. The village was packed, and the ones that did had to cross Route 9. They were the ones I talked to. But if I had those 95 or 100 spots, I would have had an opportunity, another couple hundred admissions. So if we charge $1,500 for the space and $1,500 for the park, that's $3,000 a day. They still don't have a stage, there's still no lights, there's still no sound. It's gonna be a stretch for next year. So I'm looking for something creative to come out of this meeting, mostly because I don't wanna hold these folks up. They wanna book the space for next year, but they can't do it under the same circumstances this year. Some of them will rent the parking, I'm sure, once they know that it's gonna be look like a parking lot and feel like a parking lot. Someone will rent it. The county has done very well this year. We kinda looked at the figures yesterday. It's gonna be in excess of $100,000, and it isn't even a parking lot yet. But the more events we have at the festival space, particularly on the off-season, the more successful the parking lot's gonna be as well. So I think you gotta look at it from both sides.
I think one big question is, what will the market bear from your expertise and experience? And I mean, will we be able to command 2,500 in July and August for both festival space and parking lot?
Are you talking county's Beach Road parking lot, or are you talking about the parking lot in front of the festival area?
Westbrook.
Just the one in front of the festival area.
I think for those events, it seems to me that you would be able to, both those parking lots have single access, controlled access. You would stop them coming in. If they don't have a ticket for the event, then you shoo them away. So you'd have to man those two, but I think it'd be well worth the while. And I think if we put those two lots in the package with the festival area rental and let them know, if you're gonna do this, you need to man parking lots to make sure you only have event parking.
Yeah, well, that's the other caveat. If they take the parking lot, they have to staff it, as you know, at the entrance. And the person really, if you think about it, traffic would be backed up enormously if you're gonna collect. They'd almost have to have a ticket. We've gotta go back to the box office now. If you can picture a guy coming to the gate right where the turn is on Westbrook Road, and he doesn't have tickets, and you can picture the cars now being out on the it would be very, very difficult, but they'd have to deal with that, right. We had a suggestion, actually Dave had a suggestion, we talked to Jeff about it yesterday, maybe you'd wanna...
About the fees and
Yeah.
about how we're funding it? Well, I mean, just the way the funds are handled now, the promoters apply for OCTAX, they get OCTAX for the space, and then, that money is in turn paid to us in our fees. My suggestion would be if we could have OCTAX, subsidize Wood Park, with a certain amount of money, say $50,000 a year, whatever it needs to be, right directly to Wood Park, so that's there, and then the space virtually is rented for nothing, minus a deposit or whatever we want to.
But they still pay for the parking, use of the parking lot if they want the parking lot.
Yeah, the parking lot would be something separate, and that way it's more attractive to them. We have the money to maintain the park, which essentially we need the money for, is to have the attendance and everything there. They see it as they're getting the space for nothing and they're paying for the parking lot. That's one of the ideas we had.
So the money-
Creative ideas
I
to.
dozed off, are you asking the county to put that in or not?
Octaves.
I mean, now what we're doing is these people are applying for occupancy tax.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a.
We're giving them,
They
eight,
get
10,000, whatever whatever the committee decides. They're turning around, they're giving it right back to us, which is fine. It goes into the park maintenance account. So I guess what you're saying is,
Just cut out the middleman.
particularly these folks that took a great leap of faith with us, and it would be just for next year, as I can see it, because again, the stage is a real big problem. The stage is costing these folks $3,000 a day, so there's 6,000 right off the top. We give them, if we gave an event $10,000, which was around the average for a two-day event, brand new event, 6,000 went to the stage, 3,000 went back to us to rent the space, and they were left with $1,000 for lights,
Advertising.
sound, advertising. It wasn't much, and I can see where they probably ended up not making it. But either that or a package price of, you rent the space for $1,500, you rent the parking lot for $1,500. If you wanna rent both, $2,500. $1,250 goes to the county for their parking lot, 'cause it is a separate entity, and $1,250 goes to the festival space. That's our decision to make, no business of the promoters. He's just getting a package deal, so to speak. It's
Jeff,
just-
you have some
it's for
comments?
discussion.
I just wanna give some perspective to the committee on the amount of revenue brought in on both of those lots. They're both county-owned lots, and they're both managed through contract with the village. And the Beach Road lot at the foot of the fort, in 2014, I think the total revenues were about $255,000 for that lot. And that included it included the hourly, parking, but it also included some events, that are already renting, and the mayor's renting that out for $1,500 a day, right, for the events. The Westbrook parking lot, also county-owned and managed through contract with the village. This year, we know we're gonna be over $100,000 in revenue. I'm projecting going into next year, it's gonna be somewhere around $150,000 in revenue. And when we set that $1,500 a day rate, we based it, on actual revenue on a day of parking. And that parking lot on a weekend can bring in $1,200 or $1,500 a day, just in parking revenue that day. So my concern, and when we talked about it yesterday, was, those two lots have real revenues attached to them, and if we forgive those revenues, or if we discount those revenues as part of the events, there is a real impact. With the Westbrook parking lot, we've received a lot of grants to reconstruct that lot, which that's gonna be proceeding, later this month into October and November, and maybe a little bit of work in the spring. But even with all of those grants, the county's bonded $180,000 to get us this far, to get the meters in and do a little bit of work this far. We just moved another $75,000 of county funds into the project for some of the lighting and other elements that could not be covered under the grant. So the county has invested, just off the top of my head, around $255,000 into that, or will have once the project's complete, just that alone. That's not including the maintenance costs and other costs that are annually recurring. So that would just be my caution to the committee and how we structure this. I think we talked.
You're making $500,000 in parking in the village.
The Beach Road one alone brings in $255, and yeah, we're gonna bring in probably next year $150.
Yeah, 400,000.
$400,000 in revenue on those two lots.
Free found money.
Is there any
Well,
opportunity for?
some investment and
Yeah, there's some
good thought put into
Amazing.
that. It wasn't just.
Yeah,
No, the point is not taxpayers' money, so.
yeah.
Free money.
Well, and it's
The
needed
other-
space,
The other
right?
thing is that, we need to look at the benefit. I mean, you're talking about doing a $500,000 project, paying for it in a year.
Yeah,
That's why I'm putting in my 50 parking lots,
yeah.
parking spaces.
What's your timetable on that? 'Cause that can impact this.
It's zipping right along.
bring Mary along.
We had a meeting, yesterday with, Dave and, Ed and, Kevin from, the DPW. In my ignorance, the county has money to put the sidewalk in. We've revised that plan in order to get our 50 parking spaces in. In order to expend that county money, there's a lot of paperwork that goes along, because it's a grant. So my hope was to get it pretty much done this fall. It's not happening. What we're gonna do is get it substantially started this fall for construction next year, because we can't pay until they get the sidewalk in. They have a grant for the sidewalk, but they don't have a grant for the curb that's created from the parking. So we've all anteed up to try to cover that cost, and, we need to do all this paperwork over the winter and have it set for next spring, and the county's going to actually put it out to bid, because it'll be easier to meet the requirements of the grant. Actually, it's the only way to meet the requirements of the grant. So with the grant driving the project, we'll be done by the season. They suggested we'd be done by the first of, May. First of
Jeff,
but.
is there an opportunity to expand that parking lot on Westbrook Road?
The current project is the maximum expansion, so where it is now, it sits on the old road width, which was thankfully a broad road. We're gonna be taking, where the existing, cars come in and park parallel along that front curb, that's gonna move right up to the, sidewalk curb as you drive through there. So we're moving that line about 18 feet closer to the festival space. That's gonna broaden that, and then that'll also allow some official, parallel parking along the brook, so, and slant parking on the other side. That is maximized. We've used every inch unless we start, creeping towards the brook, which we didn't think was gonna be viable.
Yeah, I might say too, that we might consider that, the rental for the, parking lot in particular, not be the same as, during, from July 1st to Labor Day. We don't charge the same for the village as the Beach Road lot. We're $1,500, but off-season it's $1,250.
Well,
It's not gonna be much of a problem. There'd be more of an incentive for a person in the spring and fall to rent the parking lot in front, where it wouldn't be as many cars there. Once the beach closes, once the dog beach, is there, and that beach is closed, there's plenty of room to park for the boats in Bill Dow's lot and in our lot on Beach Road. So you might consider a different price for the festival space and the parking lot on the off-season, which is really when we're trying to bring folks here. And the good news is, the off-season events have been successful. And I think a lot of that is, number one, there's more parking available, nearby, so people feel more comfortable. You've heard the talk. I'm not going through Lake George Village anytime between July or August. There's no place to park and there's too much traffic. That's a lot of the people that didn't come to see the symphony. They told me they didn't want to come up on a Saturday night and fight the traffic and all that. So the space is doing what we hoped for on the shoulder season, and the two new groups that are looking to use it are both October and June for next year, which is good.
Which is great, because, that's what
That's
we
what we've
need
been
now.
looking for. So if we could concentrate on that, and maybe stick to the same, modus operandi in July and August, we may not have a lot of events next year during July and August, but I think we'll probably fill June and September and maybe October.
Why are we running the parking lot? If there's an event at the festival area, I would think that we would voluntarily designate them for the event, depending on what their parking needs are. If they're gonna need more than 100 cars, or 150, because we'll have 50 across the road, and that's what we're hoping to do, is designate those for any events you have. However, we need to do, you're in a better position, you have a single entry, these are strung out along the road, we're gonna need to do some.
You're
But
talking about-
anyway, the park, cause you make the money on the parking.
Yeah.
Why are you renting it out to the festival line, just take whatever receipts you got?
Well,
And then
because
put-
what,
Put that in the package, if somebody wants to come and say, hey, we're gonna hold the parking lot for you and no charge to you.
You're not charging for parking, we don't enforce, we don't enforce our meters after, this week. So if you rent a space in September, they can park there without putting any money in the meter, there's no one there to enforce it, to be honest with you, so.
Well, I'll go back to what Dave said, I don't think we should charge them for it.
Yeah, if we just took whatever the agreed amount would be, it goes right into a line item from Octax to Wood Park, and that's how we pay it. We would wanna still require a deposit and things like that, so can't back it out or damage, but, it might be more attractive, and it's a lot easier.
yeah.
You don't have to get a check, give them a check, then they get a check, you're waiting on a check, deposit the check.
They still would have to rent the, parking space though? Still would have to rent that.
I think that's what Dave is
Yeah.
proposing, is focus the Octax on the festival space itself, make that just a sweet deal, and then for those events that do need to secure the parking, and some events know they need to control parking, and others events don't, they just want people to come in, then the parking fees would be in addition to that.
But if you make it so attractive, are you risking getting, marginal events in there if they have to
I
pay
mean,
nothing?
that's why I think you've gotta have a deposit, 'cause the risk you're taking there is, it doesn't cost them anything to say we're gonna take that weekend and then they don't show.
Yeah.
But,
They have some
that's
quality events there, one of the events, they had 3 different genres for the afternoon. They were all, known, entities. $20, you get in to see all 3 of them, and my wife and I went, and the place was dead, it was empty.
Oh,
Yeah, the good news is that every
Western
single
rock.
person, including Bill Wilson, or, Bill Mason's, we already got 3 emails from people who said that was one of the greatest, most organized events that we've ever been to in Lake George. John Strong will tell you that the quality of music that he brought there, the people were thrilled to death. Every event has been top-notch. There just has not been the attendance.
I mean, do we really have a handle, is it really the parking, or is it, there's so much else going on at that time of year between the beach and the
It's a
boats and
I think it's a combination of a lot of
Combination.
things. Well, this has been a spectacular summer
Right.
weather.
Yeah.
And, at my event, it was 98 degrees.
Yeah.
And, I had 2 tents, and anyone that couldn't get under the tent left.
Yeah.
It was
To go over
just
to the beach.
too hot out there. And if you think about it,
Yeah.
you've got a band playing that might have played in Shepherd Park a week ago for nothing,
Mhm.
or they might have played at the bandstand in Crandall Park or in South Glens Falls, and you're charging $20, and the boat cruises are there, and the water's there,
Yeah.
and the beach is there, and there's a amusement park down the street, no
Yeah.
different than the Big Apple Circus.
Right.
All those elements,
Yeah.
connected to make it not successful, but I just think these promoters, like Jim Anderson, he does Proctor's, he does, Alive at 5 in Albany, he does all the events for the city of Albany, Robert Millis does the Tulip Festival. The first thing they said to me, you don't have a music festival space yet.
Mhm.
And you're not gonna have one till you get the signs, the stage, and the parking, and the box office. Then you're gonna have something that will entice other people to come back to. So we're working on some of those other things.
Yeah.
But I think if we've gotta get these guys to hang in there with us, and if you agree with what Dave said, certainly making it attractive to them next year, we might get a few of these people back.
And even for marginal, like you were saying,
Yeah.
it might be marginal events, it's more inviting for a big craft show or something. When you've got the craft shows, they can't put out a lot of money. They can't put out $3,000 for 2 days space. It's just what's been told to us.
The two craft shows we had both canceled on us. We were taking fees, you know, $50 a crafter. We didn't set a flat rate, but, the problem down there is you don't have any foot traffic. You don't have pedestrians coming off the street. So unless it's a destination, you're not gonna find the festival space yet. That's been the problem. As I said, people coming here on vacation are here for 3 or 4 days. Thankfully, there's so much for them to do. They ride down, they see that tent over there. They don't even have any idea what it is, and they're not gonna take time to find out, 'cause they've got their days planned.
Yeah.
If it's a big entertainer like the Matthews Band or something, yeah, you're gonna fill the place. American Music Festival, I predict, will be sold out because of Sawyer Fredericks. It's in September, and people are gonna come to Lake George to see him in September. Yep.
Well, of all of the things we need to consider, you know, the stage is in progress, there's work being done on that. The parking, at least there's gonna be some improvement in that between the county lot and the town lot. And also, yeah, the public parking and the highway signs, there's progress on that, so we really need to focus on the fee structure and maybe designate Jeff to work on the box office, some plans for the box office. Or Jeff and Dave.
Put the box office right in front of the, bathroom building, that's gonna be the entrance, right?
Yeah, I think the box office has to be next to the road on Westbrook so that they can use it, also when they have an event. People can pull up, park, grab their tickets and go. I think, we've talked with Michael and we, you know, maybe for next year, if we didn't have something, we'd maybe try to utilize the visitor center or something like that, with people walking in there now, but.
Walking in.
Yeah, I think we could spend a minimal amount, because I do think that between the county and the village, with a very modest little building, we can do a lot with that. The technology hooking up the stuff's gonna probably be the big
Jeff,
touch,
and
but
then you.
the big thing now is the fees. If I can come out of this meeting today with some, I gotta get these folks signed up, before we lose them, so.
The
Jeff.
other thing that, the mayor was talking about, the box office, you might wanna consider a smaller ticket booth on the Beach Road side, because that's where all the people are. When you drive down that section of Beach Road between the ice cream shop and the putt-putt golf, and then the boats, and then the outlets, that's where you see the mobs of people. And if we could put a very small booth on that side, on that Beach Road entrance, with a big sign that says festival tickets, I think that would generate just immediate curiosity, and,
That's fine.
we might want it on both sides, and give events the option of manning both or one or the other.
Good idea, yes, Rebecca. Yeah.
Frank Dietrich, Warren County Lodging Association. Is it okay if I speak from here?
We're trying to record it, so it'd probably be better if you could get to the podium.
So, first, we're very supportive, the Warren County Lodging Association is very supportive of the festival space. The part that, sitting here listening, if we take occupancy tax money and solve the fee problem, and we don't do something to get the people there, we've moved the loss burden from the event promoter to the county, basically. It sounds like to me. And I appreciate the need to have a package program that makes all this work. The part that I thought I would hear more about today has to do with the promotion of it and the use of the space. And I do applaud the need to do things in the shoulder season. It obviously, the space works better for that. It also is better for the county in total. One more event when we're already full gives our guests and visitors something to do, but they're already here. So the real value for that isn't as great as an event that draws people to the community when there's less to do. So from a prioritization perspective, it would seem that the shoulder season, as Mayor Blaze described at events, are really good for multiple reasons. We're bringing new folks to the county, new occupancy tax money, new sales tax money. properties will stay open longer, which keeps employment going in the community longer, whether it's restaurant, you know, think about all the restaurants that are shortening their hours this week, waiting for car show to come, right? And we got a few days, restaurants are almost, some are closed for a couple days. So if we found places to fill in those holes, then we're getting lots of benefit. The festival space will just run on its own because the parking demand has been lessened. And then when we turn our attention to peak season, to make sure that space is utilized, to me, if the emphasis moves, and this is maybe more strategic than tactical, if the emphasis moves to promotion, then you get people coming, then the issue with the fees from a promoter's perspective go away because their risk is lower. So I don't know if there's something that can be done to try to help the promotion effort here or not, but it strikes me that if we take occupancy tax money and use it to fund, basically zero out the fees to a promoter, the county and the village is taking all the risks on yourselves here.
In a sense, we're already doing it though, because we're giving occupancy tax per event. So this would change the method of doing what you
Okay.
described. but,
Not
yeah.
adding more money, they're already getting money to give to
Yeah.
them, so instead of giving it to them, we're giving them for free.
So then how
Not
do you...
subtracting.
That makes sense, but how do you center yourselves around the fact that we took occupancy tax money and put it into something that didn't make money?
Yeah, well, yeah.
And
See,
again,
the
it's not, I'm
whole-
not trying to be critical here at all.
No, I
Please
understand.
to be sure, I'm not trying to be critical at all. I think what hit me, and I drove by the festival space a number of times, I went to a few events. There are all the things that were discussed here today, everything Mayor Blaze brought up, is in fact what you see. If it's hot, it's big open grass space, it's hot, right?
Right.
And parking can be an issue and all those things. But the real challenge to me, again, comes back to how do we promote it? So if I'm out of town, I wanna come to this area because we're gonna have Arlo Guthrie here. Or whoever.
But
Whatever.
right now, unfortunately, we kinda got an unknown. We know that parking is a factor, but we don't know how, is it the major factor, or is it that when they have beautiful weather, people wanna be on the beach, or they wanna be on the boats, or they wanna be doing something else other than sitting watching a concert. So I think what the mayor is suggesting, and Dave, is that at least for this next year, while we try to improve the parking situation, keep them coming, the people that took a leap of faith this year, kind of in a sense reward them for doing that and try to keep them interested, and then see where we are next year.
So this is a tactical answer then?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what I'm hearing, but, yeah. But I think you make a good point. I mean, the promotion is certainly important.
Thank you.
Well, I think the mayor took some.
I think we need to, and I know Michael's gonna talk about the website and stuff, but, I don't disagree too, that we need to do more to help the promoter promote the events that are there, absolutely.
Still morning, I guess. Good morning, Michael Consulo, the Lake George Regional Chamber of Commerce and Convention Visitors Bureau. And I think to address Frank's question of promotion, that's where we as a CVB exist as the promotional arm for Festival Commons.
So it's all your fault.
Right now, we'll also take the flood to bring things in as well, but be that as it may, this is the time of year where we're out attending trade shows and events where we're promoting not only the Festival Commons, but the Civic Center. And I've mentioned this before in numerous park and operations meetings. The Civic Center, the Lake George Forum, the Dome. This is where the young lady who is contracted through the county is employed to go out and promote this event. The problem lies, quite honestly, in the lack of materials. And that is just something that I think needs to be discussed at some point in time, is what kind of tools can we arm her with? We've done a website, but we are lacking any kind of collateral to help promote that website, so that when she does go out to these trade shows, she has something to hand out that drives people to the website. that says this is what it's all about, so that they spark an interest in this, in this particular venue. So there needs to be some sort of sales and marketing plan put in place, and I agree wholeheartedly with Frank that the promotion of it is something that really needs to be raised up a lot more than, you know, and these are all issues that we have here, and they're all issues that need to be addressed, parking and fees, but until we go out there and start to talk to event planners who are prone to look at off-seasonal events, such as in April and May and September and October, and without having the proper materials to go out there and promote them, you know, we're not gonna be able to successfully do the job that we're asking her to do. I mean, I think it's a dual-edged sword we have here right now.
Yes, Frank?
Sorry, the other thought here is that it's also hitting me that the county's efforts around the Civic Center, which we support, the Lodging Association supports, and what we're talking about here have a lot in common. The county, these are really good investments in the county, and the problems are the same. What do we do to attract activities to the Civic Center year-round, or certainly the shoulder season? How do we make better use of it in the winter months where there's a sheet of ice down? What else can you do with a facility like that? And then what's happening here? So a thought would be, is there a way to solve, if you thought of these as the same problem, just in two different geographies, how do you bring that together and come up with one answer? You know, CVB's part of that, right, I think, Michael, in terms of how do we put together all these moving parts here where the county has a vested interest and an investment in any of these venues. So rather than think about it as what should we do with the Festival Commons space, and then next meeting, what do we do with the Civic Center, maybe it's a bigger problem, I guess, is the way I'm thinking about it. And one solution could fit for both.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have one common answer that skins two cats, or however you describe it.
But just to be clear, you're suggesting that promotion is that common answer?
Well,
Yeah.
the Civic Center has that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the events, in my view, that are at the Civic Center aren't bringing new guests to town. They're events that are happening here, but not necessarily enticing new visitors to our area,
Mm-hmm.
which is really good for the economy, because they gotta buy gas, they gotta sleep in a bed, they gotta go shopping and eat and all those other things.
Mm-hmm.
So they have kind of the same kind of problems, to me.
Right.
Yeah, no answer there, it's just a way to, sitting here listening to the discussion, it hit me, it's really the
Right.
same thing.
So, I mean, it looks like we've got, you know, two possible directions. One is to just have a combined, work on the fee structure, combined fee for the parking lot and the festival space, or try to adopt this idea of restructuring the way the occupancy tax is handled. And Bill, that's your cue.
Putting this into perspective, going back to when I first got elected many years ago,
Yeah.
I thought Gaslight Village was gonna be there forever,
Yeah.
rotting away.
Yeah.
And I am so happy that we're going through the growing pains
Right.
of the infancy of this project, and we're identifying the problems.
Right.
And as we continue to solve the parking problem, the box office problem,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna grow.
The
And
signage.
it's gonna grow
Yeah.
to a tremendous magnitude, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just happy that
Yeah.
we're going through this problem.
No, that's an excellent point. We've certainly made a lot of progress over the years, and a lot of it's due to Dave and
I think-
Mayor and their promotional
I
ability.
think awareness, and certainly through promotion comes awareness as well. This is something new. Again, a person that arrives in Lake George and hasn't heard about the festival space or the parking lot, or most of them don't even know about the park yet. It's a little bit too late to ask them to come, but getting out there so that, for instance, the American Music Festival, we've been keeping track of that, because he's got Sawyer Fredericks, I hate to keep saying this, I've seen the emails.
Yeah.
7 ladies coming from 7 different states to stay for 3 days, to make their reunion Lake George because they love this guy.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So we're gonna fill rooms for that festival that weekend. But we can do it every year once we get this place up and running the way it should be. And like you said, we're having growing pains now, but meeting with these guys that know what they're doing, and they all wanna help. None of them are saying, boy, what a mistake I made renting that place, I'm never coming back again. What they're saying is that you've got to do some things to make it great. It already is a terrific place. Our festival, from a standpoint of running an organization, was extremely successful. Give us a good reason to come back again next year.
Yeah, well, it's very, very valuable insight at the right time, you know, as we started.
They love the website, incidentally, Michael, as it is. George, I mean, it had a lot of compliments about the website. They called George, he was very proactive. People could go there. Ticket sales at Brown Paper Tickets for all of us didn't really make it. They said a box office would have helped them a lot more, so.
I agree, Mayor. I think that we have gotten quite a few compliments on the website, but I agree with you 100% that a need for box office is very, very critical. And, you know, to Jeff's point, we've got the Village Center to maybe serve as a quasi box office area until something is discussed and approved upon. Yes, something on Westbrook Road, most definitely, but if there's an you know, immediate or interim, we can certainly be of assistance at the Village Center. It's already staffed there, people are, foot traffic is great, we can sell tickets, do that with Great Escape tickets, we can easily sell tickets as well.
I think we can solve these, but I have to go, I don't mean to keep you all here, but I have to go away today with some idea of fees. The contracts are waiting to go out to at least 4 or 5 of these events that have signed up already for next year. They wanna know, basically wanna know what the fees are.
Well, the
What's
major,
your suggestion for the fees?
Well, I think somehow, at the last meeting, we decided 2,500 and 2,500, that's obviously not gonna work. 1,500 and 1,500 was what we charged this year. A lot of them would like to get that parking lot under their control, but I don't think they wanna pay $3,000 a day for both. That's why I talked about some type of a package, whether we give them money through occupancy tax or whatever we do. I reminded every one of them, even though they lost money, they would have lost more at the Altamont Fairgrounds or the Ballston Spa Fairgrounds because they don't have occupancy tax. We really gave all these folks a decent amount up front. I felt we did, and gave them an opportunity to make money. I don't disagree with the reports from people that came that said they didn't do enough to promote. These people, these promoters, I saw 4 of them stand on the sidewalk over 4th of July at Anderson. 4 young people stand on a sidewalk for 8 hours and pass out reduced tickets to people, and they only took in 12 at the gate. People just had their days planned when they get, they're here. 4th of July, spectacular weekend. So they did all they could. What they need is we need to do is keep them on board until we get this place up and running, something that we can really be proud of.
well, the big question is whether we just try to do something with the fee structure to make it attractive to so they come back, or do we consider restructuring the way you handle the occupancy tax, which is that, you know, then they have to involve the Bills Committee. Bill, do you have a thought on that?
Actually, it would come out of their occupancy tax, I think, you know. The way they distribute it, it's up to them.
Yeah, most of the groups that got occupancy tax money for this space came out of the town village
Yeah.
coffers.
Mm-hmm.
So we've shifted that responsibility.
Yes,
The,
Jeff.
and then I think procedurally, if this committee wants to involve any changes in the fee structure for the county-owned parking lot, that should be referred to DPW. This committee,
Right.
this joint committee is the Park O&M committee for the park and festival space only, and that's why it's a joint committee, because there's joint ownership. So I think if this committee wants to involve that discussion, I think it would be appropriate to be referred to DPW, which handles the parking lot.
Right. But if you kept the fee structure the same for the parking lot and just use the OCTAX to reduce or eliminate the fees for next year on the festival space, then you're not involving the county parking lot revenues. So I guess that's the question, and there's a lot of factors involved, and it's not really an easy decision, but I think the mayor's point is we really need to decide one way or another on that big question, so that he can tell the promoters what the situation is for next year.
Why don't we just decide on what you think is a reasonable fee, and then you and I, through the joint tax, can set aside a good amount of money for the festival area when the events start next year.
I think he just has to let them know when he sends out the applications this year,
Yeah, well,
whether they're gonna be paying anything or not.
you had like 30.
That's my point, we'll set that,
you
and
used-
we'll figure out how much it is and just set it aside.
You used the space about, I think it was 25 days this year, so if you computed it $1,500 a day, you get $37,500 out of our thing, which, I mean, I certainly would be agreeable for 1 year.
Well,
to do
I agree
something
with
like
you,
that.
let's do it 1 year and see what
Don't
happens.
touch the parking lot fee.
Mhm.
Don't touch the parking lot,
So leave the parking lot fees at 1,500?
right?
Okay.
Well, again, the parking lot fees staying at 1,500 would be a decision for the DPW committee. Cause I've already kind of
Yeah.
briefed them that once we expand, that we wanna consider, that we should consider the fees changing. I understand the concerns and just, I think
But they've gotta balance, you know, what the market will bear. The DPW committee does too, with the benefit of having all these people coming to the festival space and paying sales tax and act tax. But I agree with you, it's gotta go to DPW.
And anybody that rents it in May or September, again, it's a bonus, because you wouldn't be feeding the meters,
Right,
so,
yeah.
kind of a trade.
Well, it may be that the committee, the DPW committee decides that the shoulder seasons, the fee for the parking lot goes down.
Right.
And one of the things, when I was at the village yesterday, we talked, and we're gonna try and pull together the numbers by month out of the parking lot. The village collects the cash, the credit card receipts go directly to the treasurer, so I gotta combine those two numbers. And that'll give the DPW committee a better idea of, hey, for the month of May, it gets an average of this much for a weekend day, and then we can kind of lay it out, and maybe that fee goes down for May and October, and goes up a little bit for July and August, when the thing is really generating a lot of revenue.
That's fine with me. I do think that, we need to address at another meeting perhaps, the website though, the management of it, and how we can use that tool and the CVV to better promote the festival space as well. And Michael's correct, we need material to pass out.
Definitely
So-
materials, and I appreciate Jeff's comment, because as a former hotelier, I knew the rate for what my ballrooms would command during the course of the year, but it was also a negotiable, it became a negotiable item, so to be able to have some flexibility, season, off-season, I think is a very good step to take and approach, Jeff, because I think you can, certainly help to drive business right there. Supervisor Merlino and I had brief conversation regarding the website. I think I would like to include he as well, Mayor, in part of that discussion as far as the management of it. Again, I think that could be saved for another time.
So do we wanna make any motion out of this committee to?
Well, I think what I'm hearing is two things. One is that the DPW, that this committee recommends to the DPW committee that the parking lot fee remain the same for next year at $1,500. I think that's what the mayor's saying, and Dave. And also, I think we would like Jeff to work on some plans for a box office, either on Beach Road or in front of, on Westbrook Road, or some combination, or possibly both. I think those are the two things that are coming out of this meeting. And then as far as subsidizing the operation of the festival space, I think you're talking about handling that through occupancy tax of the village and the town, right?
We can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we took in, I think 47,500 was the figure I come up with this year, which isn't bad for the first year, but, is occupancy, that funds we generated, is that available to use for a box office type facility?
I think we have, I think we have funds left, and I don't, as you stated, I don't anticipate anything extreme, even if we went to,
Yeah.
you know, one of the shed manufacturers that makes the really fancy sheds,
Yeah.
and then modified that, you know, I think
You don't
we're
need a lot.
talking, modest amount.
Right.
So, we can work on an estimate, certainly we've got this winter to get that in place. In the meantime, as was suggested, maybe the village visitor center can pick up the slack on anything coming this fall that maybe they can assist
We
with.
have all three places, sure.
Yes, Gene?
I agree with Bill. I mean, I didn't say much, but, you know, these problems are good problems.
Yeah.
Even though we're looking at them in a different way. And I think next year you'll have a lot better season. There's a lot of other little things that we can do, also through tourism, through CVB board. And I think, and we're working on it. And I think, you know, I think the website didn't come out until July. So that really didn't give you a lot to go on. And now it's up and running. Looks like a good site, promoted in some magazines and stuff like that, and people will start finding it. And then I think that's what we gotta do, and I think we're on the right direction.
Yeah, well, I think the good thing again is that everyone that's used it, all of these people on that list, raved about the site, the location, the cooperation, and the people that came, we heard no complaints except we had a hard time finding a place to park. The last item that I had was the Shrine Circus.
Mhm.
Shrine Circus is a one-day event coming on, September 19th. The road was gonna be under construction in front of them, so I went and got a TRP from the state. They approved it about 2 weeks ago. And then yesterday Jeff advised me that the road, construction is gonna be somewhat after that date. So, we'd like to move the circus back to the festival space.
Mhm.
We were gonna have to do some innovative and creative things with water. We were gonna have to pay for porta-johns over at the state. They were gonna have to jump the curbs to get their trailer truck there. It's only a one-day event, it's only 2 shows in the afternoon. I'd like to be able to get a deposit from them for $500 and move them back to the festival space where they were supposed to be begin with. They've gotta go now and reprint their posters, but they wanna be at the festival space. They never wanted to be over in the Battleground Park, but they couldn't access their trucks.
Mhm.
It's just they come at 7 in the morning,
Come early.
they're gone at 7 o'clock at night, they're playing Glens Falls the very next day, so, I've asked them to resubmit their insurance, because we need to get that now in our name. We were over at the DEC. I'd just like permission from this committee to accept a $500 deposit from this circus and bring them back to the festival space for one day.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Shriners will thank you.
We had a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that question?
I just wanna make sure, are you suggesting, do you wanna waive the fee? Is that, you can just get the $500
Right.
deposit, but waive the fee?
Yeah,
Because they weren't paying a fee over
They
at
weren't
the
paying
state.
any fee, and we did not give them any octax either, because it was only a one-day event. So we don't have any expenses connected. They are now, because of having to move again, but they
Okay.
wanna do that.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye, opposed, carried. Okay, and on the other question, on the parking lot, I think what I've heard is that this committee thinks it's important to try to keep that fee at $1,500, at least for next year, to see where we are, so that's gotta go to DPW, but I think it'd be helpful to have a recommendation from this committee that we keep it at $1,500. Dennis? Okay, seconded by Bill. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried. And then the other thing is, we asked Jeff, I don't know if we need a formal resolution to look at the box office question.
No, I'll review that, and
Okay.
then I'll bring that back to the next park O&M. I think between Dave and I, we can come up with a reasonable plan.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, is there anything else?
Got bounce houses down there.
Yeah, that's.
I do, I didn't wanna keep you all here, Millis, the American Music Festival, and all the other events have had bounce houses. The county attorney, advised me and Lisa that, he no longer wanted bounce houses. So I went to Nymir, same insurance company you have, county has, and, got steps to obtain favorable risk transfer for inflatable rides from Nymir. And this came just yesterday, on their bulletin. It was a recommendation, and the big problem was that it was a hold harmless agreement. In other words, you've had bounce houses at the airport, and all of these promoters want bounce houses, but the bounce house operators have never been asked to sign a hold harmless agreement. The insurance company is recommending that they sign one. You probably know more, Fred, about this than what I'm talking about. I called the bounce house providers yesterday that have worked with the festival and asked them if they would sign a hold harmless agreement, and they said yes, they would. So I was gonna give this information to the county attorney,
Right.
and I'll work with him to get some resolve to that situation. As long as they sign a hold harmless agreement, according to Nymir, that takes us right out of the picture. And I've
Well,
got
are they, Nymer saying they will insure us for any residual risk?
Nymir,
Yeah.
Nymir gave us the steps here.
Yeah.
Get insurance coverage from the provider,
Yeah,
obtain favorable indemnification language,
yeah,
rendering us, harmless for liability.
all
And
right.
that's something that none of us have ever asked for before. We have them all the time in Shepherd Park. But I called the company and they said, no problem. Give us the hold harmless agreement that the county wants and we'll sign it.
But will they still, I mean, will Nymer still defend us if we had, I mean, if somebody makes a claim, even though we have that
Yeah.
indemnification, they're gonna make a claim against us, but
They assured
they're
us.
saying they would defend us,
Yeah,
and that's it.
they
Okay,
assured us
that's
that they
good.
would, yeah.
All right.
Mayor, have you ever considered petitioning the state for a stoplight at the intersection of Westbrook Road and Route 9 to allow the people to cross?
It might be something,
Mhm.
it might be something, and Dennis is just doing that Gateway project, but
Well, it definitely would be, you know, you got a crosswalk. They also do for Americade, they have, temporary
yeah,
crossing.
we have a temporary traffic signal we put up during Americade so they can come out of, Fort William Henry. I think eventually that's what's gonna be
And
necessary.
you could have a stoplight there and just put it on caution off-season, you know?
Right.
But it's temporary, you roll it up, set it up, hangs out over the road, they have people there administering it, and they, turn it on and off as the need comes, so if you're parking over there,
It's
you
a
get
good
4 or 5
idea.
people, he turns the light on and stop, and then he's crossing, and then lets it go, and
Yeah.
when the festival's over, they pack it up and take it away.
Yeah, that could be a lot less expensive partial solution to the parking problem.
Well, you're
Yeah.
probably looking down, you know, there'll be a traffic study and everything, but it's a good idea. Don't forget, we never had sidewalks there.
Yeah.
Dennis became supervisor. Now we got sidewalks.
Yeah.
That's just a little plug the day before the election.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff, did you have something more?
Motion adjourned.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Gene, seconded by Dennis, all in favor?
Thank you very much.
Good work with Johnny.